Just 2 hours ago, Allied air forces began an attack on military targets in Iraq and Kuwait. These attacks continue as I speak. Ground forces are not engaged. This conflict started August 2nd when the dictator of Iraq invaded a small and helpless neighbor. Kuwait, a member of the Arab League and a member of the United Nations, was crushed. Its people brutalized. 5 months ago, Saddam Hussein started this cruel war against Kuwait. Tonight, the battle has been joined.
For most, George Bush Sr. will be best remembered for this: America's first war against Saddam Hussein. Far more decisive and successful than the second his son would wage a little over a decade later.
We're not walking away until our mission is done, until the invader is out of Kuwait. And that may well be where you come in.
Its mission was accomplished in just 6 months, and George Herbert Walker Bush was welcomed in Kuwait as its liberator. But to Americans, he was much more than a wartime leader, a man whose whole life seemed dominated by a sense of duty to country and to party. He was born in Massachusetts, the son of a senator, raised in America's ruling class, white, Anglo-Saxon Protestant. He was on his way to Yale College when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, and he enlisted aged just 18, America's youngest pilot in the war, shot down by enemy gunfire in 1944, rescued here after hours in the Pacific. From war hero, he became a self-made millionaire, setting up his own oil company after the war and striking it rich in Texas before beginning his move into politics.
But generally speaking, it's letting the market, it's letting the supply and demand do more than regulation has been able to do.
George Bush's impeccable WASP credentials, wartime service and money propelled him through 2 terms in Congress and jobs as US envoy to China and director of the CIA in the 70s. In the 1980 election that saw Ronald Reagan beat Jimmy Carter to the White House, he chose George Bush as his running mate. For 2 terms in office, they complemented each other perfectly. Reagan supplying the charisma of a former actor, Bush the competence of a technocrat. In 1988, Bush became the first vice president to reach the White House in 150 years, accepting his party's nomination in a speech including this famous promise on taxes.
Read my lips. No new taxes.
It was a pledge he'd later break, but for much of his presidency, attention was focused abroad. As President Bush steered America through the turbulence of a new post-Cold War world order, managing relations with Mikhail Gorbachev's Russia, and maintaining the special relationship with Britain, cultivated so devotedly by Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher. Ties that would prove invaluable during the biggest test of Bush's presidency, Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait. In a conflict that followed, the world saw a new kind of warfare, fought with new claims about precision bombing and surgical strikes, keeping casualties low, on the coalition side at least.
I know what I've got to do. I've got very good people helping me do it. I really don't lose sleep. I can't tell you, I don't shed a tear for families of and for those that might be lost in combat. We've had very few losses, and yet I got to tell you, I feel each one. But we're going to continue this, and we're going to prevail.
Mr. President?
If America was grateful for George Bush's leadership, it didn't show it in the elections that followed. He proved no match for the more youthful, more charismatic Bill Clinton.
I don't want you to read my lips, and I sure don't want you to read his. I do hope you will read our plans.
Bush retired from politics, emerging occasionally for skydiving feats with his sons and helping support his eldest, George W. Bush, in his political ambitions. The two proved very different presidents, one quietly spoken but effective and skillful, the other brasher and louder, leaving a far more questionable legacy. Dominic Waghorn, Sky News,